Happy day, happy day. This is Positively D discussion. You have to remember that HIV still exists. You have to get tested. You have to use protection because if you have contracted HIV, you could get on medication and you can live a better, healthier life. Today on the show, I got Kalvin and Eunice Marshall, a beautiful couple, both living with HIV that have been together for 37 years. And I'm going to bring them on right now so they could talk to you about how they stayed together so long. Hey, hi, Kalvin and Eunice. Introduce yourself to everybody and let everybody know who you are and where you're from and why we're here today, because this is about love, HIV, relationships. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Kalvin.
And I'm Eunice.
We are the Marshalls. We were friends in high school, and we weren't dating in high school. We just knew each other. Although Eunice was dating a friend of mine that was in the band with me. And after we graduated, he went on and he got married again. See, he had been married before. And Eunice was free and single. So I ran across her and we reconnected after high school. And we just started talking and dating. And we ended up getting married in 1984.
Oh, goodness. Goodness. You was free, Eunice.
What do you say, man?
He snatched you up, didn't he?
Like a fishing rod or something. Let me get her. It's all right, Pete. Go ahead.
When you guys live in Houston, how long you been in Houston? All your lives?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, you've been there all your lives.
Yeah. He was born in Houston. I came 6 weeks later.
Oh, so you from Houston?
Yeah, that's what I always say. Yeah. But I wasn't born here, but got here fast as I could.
Right. You from Houston. So let's talk about love and relationship and Eunice and Kalvin and their diagnosis. And, because I know that was a tough time for the both of you. And I just want to start to tell everybody that they have been married 37 years. 37 years, but you add the plus to it, and they've known each other much, much longer than that. So it's like people don't stay together anymore in relationships or in marriage. People take it like they're dating or their boyfriend and girlfriend, and they just cut the marriage loose. I know when I was growing up, grandmother, grandfather, they stayed together for years, no matter what happened. And I'm going to share this on here. So we all knew my granddaddy was dating a woman down the street, and my grandmother knew it. But guess what? They had 6 beautiful children. They stayed together. I never saw my grandmother and grandfather argue. It was the best relationship that I had ever seen as a child, And if both of them did not pass away, they'd still be together today. So I say relationship is just like a job. People want to stay at work and work the 9 to 5 because they're getting paid. But because they're not getting paid at work, they don't put the same amount of time and effort in to stay in their marriage. And that's what you guys have done. You put the effort in and you've been together 37 beautiful years. Say, what happened in 2007?
In 2007, well, before that, in 2006, I had lost my job. I had been working for Denny's restaurant for just about 30 years. And my manager just came up and told me when I got to work that I didn't have a job anymore. And he said my job performance had suffered and he didn't think I could do it. I was too old. And I had already noticed things were happening to me I couldn't explain. And I didn't know what they were.
He bought into that being old.
Yeah, I had
So
just
you was
turned
having
50.
issues with your body.
Yes. And my manager said I was too old to do my job. I had just turned 50.
And that is not old.
No, it's not.
And he said, well, we will try and find you a place that's slower that you can handle. And after he said that, I was blackballed from Denny's.
Mm.
Nobody talked to me. I never heard from anybody ever again. And every job interview I went on after that, they said, you got a bad review from your other job, so we can't touch
What?
you. And I just stressed out. And as I stressed out, I saw myself getting sick, and I couldn't figure out why. And I was taking Eunice to work after I lost my job, and I started having spasms, is what I called them.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't drive. I'd be driving and my whole left or right side would go stiff. And I couldn't figure out why. And then finally, I told Eunice one day I was taking her to work, I had another spasm. I wasn't going to try and jeopardize my life or hers or anyone else's trying to take her to work. And that's when Eunice said, we need to start trying to find a doctor because something's wrong.
To see what was wrong.
And I kept calling doctors trying to make appointments. Nobody would see me. And we finally went to our primary care doctor. And when we got there, she was on sabbatical. So the nurse that was there said, the only thing I can tell you is to go to the emergency room. So we went to the emergency room. At that point, we were taking cabs. So we took a cab to the emergency room. The doctors in the emergency room said, we don't know what's going on, but we'll take blood and see. They took the blood and then sent me home. But 2 weeks later, they said, we're going to refer you to a neurologist, as somebody that can help you because we think you have neurological problems.
Yeah, they thought it was Parkinson's.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they told us.
So I went to that doctor. He took blood. He said, well, you look strange. You look, you're aging, and we don't know why you're aging like this. But you don't have Parkinson's, so we're going to refer you to a blood doctor. Went to the blood doctor. He said, well, we don't know what's wrong with you. We're going to refer you to a cancer doctor.
Yeah, this went on.
Wow.
And after the cancer doctor, I was so sick, I don't remember anything after that. This was from September to December 2006.
Yeah.
So for 3 months, you seen 4 doctors and no one could figure out what was going on.
No one.
And then how long before you were able to find out what was going on?
We finally went to another doctor and she just said, this has been going on long enough. We're just going to put him in the hospital so we can find out what's going on. And once she put me in the hospital, then they found out my kidneys were shutting down and I needed 2 blood transfusions.
What?
And they told me, I guess they told Eunice I had dementia. And they didn't know what was going on. And I guess Eunice could tell you start from there because I have no memory of what happened after that.
Wow.
So eventually they told us that when he first came to the hospital and they took the blood, they did do an HIV test. But they weren't the ones who were supposed to tell us the results. They were waiting on the county, the city, or whoever, to tell us. But they took so long, he got so bad that we put him in the hospital to find out what was going on. And then they told him he had, advanced HIV, but it
So
had
they
been
had
going
already knew the results.
Yeah.
exactly.
And
but
it
they
took
kept
all this
telling us-
time to tell you?
Yes. They said they couldn't find me.
Exactly.
But this was in 2007. It's not like it was in the 80s.
It's not 1975.
So
Yeah. They drug their feet. They drug their feet. They drug their feet. And then they start putting notes on the car at our house, talking about they were looking for him. The city was. So I took a note and I gave it to Cal and said, well, somebody from the city keeps calling for you and leaving notes on the car. So he called her from the hospital and she said, well, I need to see you. And he's going, what is it about the HIV? She said, well, I can't tell you. He
so
said,
you
well,
already found out.
and
And they just now putting this on your card.
Please call us. Please call me.
So what did they
So-
tell you, Calvin? The AIDS diagnosis that they gave you. So it started to affect your body.
Yes. Yes.
In what kind of way?
His organs started just shutting down, I think.
I noticed when I was working that my coordination was off. And I couldn't pick up stuff. I couldn't grasp anything. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do anything at work. And everybody noticed. But everybody attributed to me getting older. They kept saying, you're just getting older. You can't do this job anymore. And that's what I thought. I thought, okay, I'm getting old. I can't do it anymore.
Right.
But then once I started driving and having spasms,
You knew something was wrong.
I knew it was more than that. And come to find out, I was having strokes.
Hmm.
And once they put me in the hospital, and the doctor finally came and said, you tested positive, you have HIV, and you need to tell your wife. And my first reaction is, you about the biggest lie I ever.
Right. What you talking about? Yeah, y'all been together already 21 years. What you talking about? I ain't been with nobody else.
What are you talking about?
So he said, okay, you need to tell your wife. And he walked out the door. He waited a couple of days, then he came back and he said, well, did you tell your wife? I said, tell my wife what? You say that you have HIV? No, I said, I just told you the other day I didn't have it. And we argued back and forth.
See, we laughing now, but who was laughing?
So Calvin, like, I'm not telling her that because why would I tell my wife that and then scare her?
So once he left, the nurse came in and I told the nurse, this man lost his mind because he just told me I had HIV.
Oh my God.
You know, he got to be crazy. And she said, let me check the chart and I'll get back to you. So she came back. She said, well, yeah, you were diagnosed with AIDS. I'm like, no, that's not right. It can't be right.
You still didn't want to hear it, huh? You just over there laughing.
Hey, what happened? No. He's like, y'all gotta go back, come back with something else.
So she said, okay, but you have to tell your wife because she needs to be tested also. And before I could do that, it sunk in that, I have AIDS.
Yeah.
And I guess the next day, my mother came to visit and I apparently told her I was having chest pains. So she told the nurse, he's having chest pains. And the nurse said, it's probably gas or something, don't worry about it. And my mother said, no. He told me he's having chest pains. Somebody gonna check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing they did. And before I knew it, I was being wheeled into another room.
Gosh.
And I heard them talking about my heart, my heart, my heart. And I'm trying to figure out what they were talking about. Nobody said anything to me.
Mm.
And once they got me calmed down, they started giving me medication. And I just so happened to ask the nurse one day, so what is this I'm taking? And she looked at me with a crazy look and said, you know what this is.
If you knew, you wouldn't have asked. Right? Eunice,
So
if he knew, he wouldn't have asked.
So I said, no, I don't know. She said, this is your medicine, what you wasn't taking. Why you put your wife at risk? I'm like, what are you talking about?
What?
Yeah, they were very ugly.
She said, you know you had this and you were sleeping with men and you brought it home to your wife and exposed her to it. How could you? I have no idea what you're talking about. She said, don't play crazy. You know what you got. You know you had it. You just stopped taking your medicine, didn't you?
Mm.
I'm like, no, I didn't.
Right. They trying to tell you that you was already on medicine, stop, that you knew you had it and you didn't. So they trying to tell you already what something they think you already knew. Then telling you that you was a gay man. They giving you all the information, telling you who you are and what you knew when it was totally wrong.
It was totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
So at that point, all the nurses turned on me at that point. Nobody would talk to me. I mean, they come in and they throw the tray of food that they were serving me and they walk out. And
because they thought that you knew and you put your wife at risk. So they didn't like you anymore, basically.
Yeah. So I mentioned it to the doctor that they were all being rude and nasty. And he went out and he told me, we're not having this in my hospital, on my floor, with my patient. If you don't want to do this job, you need to find another.
Right, right.
And the head nurse was a friend of my mother's. And she came and she said, who were they? Tell me their names. Because they no longer work here. And because I didn't know names. I didn't know my own name. I couldn't give them a name, but they thought it was so drastic that I be moved to another room. Because
and so is that what they did? They moved you?
Yeah, they moved me to another room.
So what was actually happening to your body? Your organs were shutting down. You had heart problems. You had neurological problems with your body. What was going on with your body?
As far as I know, I was told I had kidney failure. I needed 2 blood transfusions. They didn't know why I was losing blood, but I was losing blood. I was anemic. They said I was, they just said I was really sick. They didn't think I was going to make it. And I didn't know what to do, what to say, how to act or how to react. And I didn't know how to tell Eunice.
Right.
How do you tell your wife you diagnosed with AIDS?
And y'all been together 21 years.
Yes, exactly.
So the advanced AIDS diagnosis was affecting the inside of your body. That's what it was doing. There's no telling how long you've been living with it, you know? You could have been living with it 25 years, 30 years.
Well, once we started to get educated about it, we tracked back everything that we did and where we had been. And we come to find out we were having symptoms right about the time we got married in 1984.
Mm.
But we didn't know what they were.
Mm. And so in 2007, once you did tell Eunice, I'm sure you were still in the hospital.
Yes.
How did you take it, Eunice?
Well, after seeing what happened to his body and what was happening to him, it was like, well, at least now we know what it is, and we could, take medicine, and I thought he'd get better.
Yeah.
Nobody that told us any different. So far as I knew, he'd take his pills, and then we'd be able to go home, and that'd be it. I didn't know it was going to be one of them lifetime things, but
Yeah.
So
it is what it is.
Once I told Eunice about it, and the lady from the health department called, and I talked to her, and she came up to the hospital. She immediately asked Eunice to leave, and then she questioned me and said, "Okay, who have you been sleeping with?" She said, "We know you've probably been sleeping with your neighbors."
I've been sleeping with my wife.
And I told her, no, I wasn't sleeping with my neighbors. I was at work every day, so I didn't have time to do anything else but go to work and come home.
Right.
So,
and of course, you can't track back from 1984.
No.
No. There was no telling.
And she at that point said, "So you haven't been sleeping with me?" And I said, "No, I've never been with a man." She said, "I don't believe it, but I'm going to write it down."
Of course they are. They always do that to heterosexual men when they say they haven't been sleeping with men.
They don't believe it.
And they still doing it now.
They still doing it. 30, 40 years. They still
doing it right now, today, as we speak. They telling that to somebody right now.
Yeah.
Who is
but it's only in America. Everywhere else, they.
So she said she could test Eunice, and she would take it back, and she would have the results in 2 weeks, she said.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, in the 2 weeks' time, I was about to be transferred to a nursing home.
So you were doing really bad.
Yeah, they put him to a nursing home.
Yeah.
And
but they couldn't feed itself,
We had been waiting to get the results from Eunice's test. And the lady, she said, "Okay, I'm on my way. I got the results, I'm on my way." And she never showed up. So Eunice was waiting for the results. I was waiting for the results.
Yeah.
And she never showed up. So I went to the nursing home, and I was there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
And I was doing everything I could to get out of that place.
I bet you was. Don't nobody want to be in no nursing home. They don't treat you too good either. They do not treat you good in nursing homes.
No.
And I finally went home just before
Easter.
Right before Easter.
Right.
Yeah.
And Eunice got a call from the woman and said, "Okay, I got your results and I'm going to bring."
April.
What's that, 8 months? I'm saying you were when they told you were living with, when you were going back and forth to the hospital and all of this, and now it's April. So you actually were in the hospital and in a nursing home for about 8 months then.
Yeah, just about.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
And then you don't find out till 8 months later, Eunice, your results.
Yeah. And she asked me the same question. You sleeping with your neighbors? I don't know my neighbors. I said to myself, if I was, I ain't gonna tell you.
So I want to talk about what kept you guys together. And the only reason why I have this question is because I have met people, that have reached out to me, and a lot of the women who have contracted HIV, they say, I'm leaving, I don't want to be with him. And I'll tell them, well, how you just gonna blame him now?
Exactly. It
I
takes
said,
two.
did you guys get tested before you ended up in a relationship?
No.
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 So it's nobody's fault.
Exactly.
It's nobody's fault.
Mm-mm.
When I found out that I was living with HIV, I wasn't upset because I never got an HIV test. How am I gonna be mad? And I never had an HIV test. He never had an HIV test. We were together 10 years. It's nobody's fault.
That's true.
And so it's like this diagnosis would tear a relationship or a marriage apart. Talk to me about what kept you guys together. Did you even have that conversation? Were you upset, or Kalvin, or were you upset, Eunice, trying to figure out who did what? Or you just said, you know what, forget it. It is what it is.
What we did after the lady left, telling Eunice her diagnosis, she cried, I cried, we cried together. And we said, okay, we don't know where we go from here.
Yeah.
Nobody told us we needed to take medication. I got a month's supply of medication from the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me to go and renew it. And that was it. They didn't say you had to keep taking it. I mean, we got no information.
You didn't know anything. They ain't give you no information to a HIV specialist or anything. No education at all. And this was in 2007.
Yeah, and the city was supposed to, she said, I'll get back. She never got back with us about no resources. Never. I'm like, how many people they did the same thing that they did to us? That they told them, then walked off, and they never went back.
And guess what? Those people's lives are probably gone right now because of that. Because of that. How'd you guys figure out what you needed to do? Who did you contact? What was a way for you to reach out to get the information and the resources and the help you needed?
The insurance that Eunice had afforded us a nurse to keep calling and calling.
Okay.
And she kept calling and calling and calling. And then she said, have you got in touch with your doctor? Because you need to see a HIV specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I didn't know that. And then she said, how about medications? I said, well, I got medication when I left the hospital. It's almost gone now.
And Eunice don't have no medication.
Nothing. She didn't have any. She said, well, you need to get in contact with your primary care doctor that will get you in touch with an HIV specialist. And at that time, I didn't have her number because she had moved. So the nurse looked it up, called, made an appointment for us, and we went to see our doctor.
Thank goodness for that woman.
Yes.
Thank you.
It only takes one to change somebody else's life. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. She was a blessing. Thank goodness for that woman.
She was.
And from that, our primary doctor referred us to a HIV specialist.
And that's how it all started.
Yep. So we've been going ever since.
Yeah.
Well, and what really got me angry and motivated was while I was in the hospital, they said to me, we have a hospital counselor that can come and talk to you if you need to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in and he was talking and like, okay, you have this. It's not a death sentence. You can live with it. He said, we can help you here. He said, we don't judge here. This is a no judgment hospital. But
really?
Before we can help you, you have to come clean with us.
You have got to be kidding me.
Yes. He said the same thing.
And I said, what? He said, you have to tell us exactly how you got it so we can help you. there's no shame in being gay.
I'm trying to figure out right now why you say that. Why do it matter how you got it? Just give me the help I need. It shouldn't matter
Exactly.
how I got it. So it's like everybody in the hospital is focusing on if you gay.
how
They
you
all just
doing?
want to know before you leave if you gay. Basically, that's what it is. They just want to know because we know it. He gonna tell us before he leave here.
And since I didn't say it, he went out to talk to the nurse and left the door open. And he said to the nurse, I don't know why he won't come clean. We can help him, but he got to come clean first. He have to tell us.
So
And
they
that
couldn't
motivated
help
me.
you because you couldn't tell them that you were gay?
Yes.
Did they help you?
No.
No.
You gotta be kidding me.
That was my motivation. So after Eunice got her diagnosis, I said to Eunice, I don't know how we got it, but we can't point fingers at each other because it's just us,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And if we don't stay here for each other, we're going to die.
Yeah.
And Eunice said, okay. I don't know how we got it either, but we got it.
Right.
And we said, well, no matter what, we made these wedding vows that we would stick with each other. And we're going to do that. We're going to do it, you know, you just seen me come out of the hospital. So that was for better or for worse, in sickness and in health. So we already got that part down.
15 years later.
Yep, we still together.
And you sit right here telling everybody about your journey.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, if we lived past a year, because we didn't think we were going to live past a year, do you want to, we should go out and talk to other people, because I said to her, I know it's other couples that may go through this. I don't want them to go through what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, okay, we'll do that if we live that long.
So it's like you say, we're going to stay together, you know? It is what it is. And we got to take care of one another. But you still didn't think that you was even going to be alive. You didn't know how long you were going to be alive. Either one of you.
No, because everything I heard, if you had AIDS, you were going to die. No matter how much people said, oh, you can still live.
It's lack of knowledge, lack of education.
Yes.
When you first get, I don't know too many people who's been told that they are living with HIV and they know everything about HIV, especially in the Black community. You know, we
don't talk about it. We don't talk about it.
We got to talk about that. You know, I didn't know nothing. All I knew was Magic Johnson and Eazy-E, and they didn't even live in my community. I just seen them on TV.
Thank you.
So I didn't know anybody. Of course, I think we all think we gonna die. This is it. It's over. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And 15 years
don't have no money.
Right. And 15 years later, you guys sit right here in front of me saying we didn't know if we was gonna make it, and you still here.
Yeah, we still here.
Taking care of each other. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I want to say just a few things because I didn't mention this before. So Kalvin and Eunice in 2010, they were on the Houston Ryan White Planning Council, and they received the Ryan White Planning Council Community Leadership Award twice, 2010 and in 2011. They were both facilitators for several support groups. They joined Living Without Limits, Living Large, Inc., which is a support group for heterosexual men and women who live with HIV. And they started, let's say, a support group for heterosexual couples that felt like they were left out. There was so much in that bio that you sent me that I can't read all of it. They have done so much for heterosexuals who live with HIV. And it's needed in the community. The stigma on HIV is so bad. And I always say, especially for Black men, because like he said, they want to label you as being gay, you know, and they tell you who you are when you know who you are. So, I mean, I want to talk about how in the struggles, did you guys go through anything after that? Because it looks like love didn't fail neither one of you guys, because you're still together. And I think a lot of heterosexual couples need to hear about being together, even if you're diagnosed with HIV, because you need each other.
You really do. You really do.
Because when she was down, I was up. And when I was up, she was down.
Yeah.
So we just
leaned on each other.
Leaned on each other.
Well, him mostly. I leaned on him mostly. Because it don't take much to set me off.
Yeah, you sensitive. You is sensitive.
I just look at him and I go, oh, okay. I'll be cute.
And it's just a story. It's a story and a journey of love with HIV. There's so many people that could stay together in their diagnosis, but they refuse not to because they're playing the blame game.
Exactly.
They really do. And they go out there looking for the same thing they already had at home.
The same, like how you said that, the same thing that they already got at home.
You're looking for a man, you already have a man. So why are you out there looking for another one?
But I say, if you already
you'll know what
if you're already in that relationship and you find out that both of you are living with HIV and the relationship is already a cool, nice relationship, why leave?
Exactly. It don't make no sense.
You're going to leave and now you're not going to find anybody.
Exactly.
Because inside, a lot of us feel that we can't. So it pushes you back a bit to even want to fight or try to be in a relationship. You might as well just stay with who you with.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. That happened to me though, but I couldn't stay. Because we had already split up. And we split up for a reason. There was a lot of abuse and he was using drugs. It was just a bad relationship.
Yeah,
and I remember him telling me, well, we should just get back together and get married. And I said, I don't want to marry you.
I know that's right.
Because if the relationship was good, I would have went back to him and we could have just stayed together. But I left for a reason. I'm not going to go back. So, tell everybody about love and how you could stay together this long. That's 37 years. That's 3 decades plus.
You have to make that commitment.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
You have to say that no matter what, no relationship is perfect. You're gonna fuss, you're gonna fight, you're gonna have arguments.
Yeah.
But through it all, you still have each other. And that's what has to count.
You work through it no matter what.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's love. That's unconditional love. Because you take each and every one of your flaws and you work through them. Some people don't know how to work through flaws. They get frustrated and run off.
That's true. I was a runner.
Yeah. Oh,
Cal won't let me run. Cal won't let me run.
No, Cal, you didn't run this time, did you?
Don't even think about it. I'm like, what? He said, nope.
I said, you didn't run this time.
Nope.
Calvin gonna come find you, Eunice. You better not run.
Nah,
Talk a little bit about some of the support groups and heterosexual people, couples, heterosexual people who live with HIV that you guys have helped. What have they said? You know, or did any of them come in and didn't know half the things that you were telling them?
Well, before we found heterosexual couples, we only were able to meet with gay men and a few women. And I kept asking in the support group we were going to, what about the other heterosexual people? And what I kept getting was, there are no heterosexual men.
Wow.
And every time somebody said that to me, I said, well, what about me?
What am I?
And they said, well, you're the only one. I'm like, no, I don't believe that.
Wow.
But everywhere I went, everybody said, you're the only one. And a friend of ours wanted to start a support group. And he had partnered with the LGBT Center here in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And they started what they called the Center HIV Support Group. So he and I and Eunice and his partner got together. And when that group, the center closed, so the support group went away,
mm-hmm.
we decided to create another group, you know, because we all said, why can't heterosexual people and gay people get along? I mean, we all living with HIV, so why can't we get along? So we decided to create an all-inclusive support group. And all we heard was, you can't mix gay and straight people together. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Interesting.
And I kept saying, why doesn't it work? We have no problem with Chris, who we've been friends with, and his partner. He had no problem with us, and we're heterosexual. Why can't everybody get along? And they say it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I say anything could work if you want it to work.
exactly.
So we set out to prove everybody wrong. So we created the group was called Positive 713. And it was an all-inclusive group. And we got mostly gay men, mostly Hispanic, and every now and then a couple would come in and they say, oh, we didn't think there were other couples out there.
Wow.
And then they stay for a hot minute and then they leave. And I couldn't understand, why is it we can't support each other? They would just come and go. They come and go. I mean, we saw at least 8 to 10 couples.
And they just wouldn't stay.
They wouldn't stay.
Hmm.
And when I met Cecilia, she invited us to Living Without Limits, Living Large. And she said, this is the group you need to be in because it's for heterosexual men and women.
Nice.
And when we got there, you know, it's always one in the group. And this lady came up to me and she said, I don't know why you all are here. This is not for you all. Support group are for single men and women. And you all have each other to lean on. You don't need to be here. And I looked at her like she was crazy.
So just because you married, you don't need a support group?
Yeah.
Just because you married, you can't be there to help other people and lift them up?
That's how some people think.
And she said, if you all are going to stay, I'm not coming back anymore. And she stopped coming.
Mm. So do you guys still run Living Large support group, or has it ended already? Does Cecilia still have her organization?
She still has it, but because of COVID, the place where she was meeting is only meeting with certain groups.
Yeah.
And she's not with that in the group of people that they're allowing to meet at this time.
Mm. So,
But Cecilia allowed me to create a couples group because she said she thought it was needed. And from that couples group, we got another 8-10 couples. And
did they stay?
6 of the couples divorced. One of the couples, she was positive and he was negative. He passed away. And one couple is still together. They were about to get married. They got married. They're still married, but they're not. They don't come to the group anymore.
Just can't keep them in.
And what I keep hearing from all the support groups is once you find somebody, you no longer want to go to a support group. So they stop coming. And then once they break up, they start coming again.
So do you think that's what it is? Because they're in a relationship, they don't feel they need any support because they have support from their mate?
That's what I've been told.
But don't you think it would be nice for all the couples who live with HIV to support each other together?
Yeah.
You know,
That
even
would be
if that's
better.
going to dinner together, you know, having movie dates together, just supporting each other together.
That would be nice.
I tried to create a database for that because we went through block training last year and they said we needed to do some kind of project. And our project was going to be trying to create a database for couples, for heterosexual couples that are living with HIV. When I put it out there, the couples I talked to said they were interested.
I just met a couple. I'm emailing them today. They're going to be on the show. I'm going to talk. They don't live in Houston though. But when I meet with them, I'm going to see if they will take your information and maybe all of you guys can get together and figure this out because it is needed.
Yes, it is.
It's needed. And you guys been trying and working on this for so long. It's needed.
Yeah.
Because when I took this to Cecilia, I said to her, we need to have a place for couples because in the past, when we were growing up, all we heard was it takes a village. And that village looked out for couples also. If one couple was doing bad, the women got together and talked to her. The men got together and talked to him. Everybody talked, and some way they stayed together.
Right.
And I said to Cecilia, why can't we do that now? We should be able to be there for each other. Yeah. You know, just because we're all different couples don't mean we can't support each other.
You couples.
Yeah.
You're all couples living with the same virus in your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know how important support is, whether it's with the couple or not. We all need support, even if you're in a relationship. I know support changed my life. It really has changed my life. And
you know, what made me angry when I told, because I've been trying to start a couples group before I talked to Cecilia, and everybody told me you need to, in order to have a couple support group, you need to have a therapist because they have to be able to counsel all the couples. I'm like, we don't need a therapist. You don't need therapy to have a couple support group. You just need the couples to support each other.
And to show up.
Yeah.
And to show up.
And everybody kept telling me, it won't work if you don't have a licensed therapist or counselor.
No.
And I'm like, that's not necessary.
Lived experience works better than anything. And you guys, 37 years plus, that's the support right there. 37 years plus you guys have been together. That's the support. That's the counseling. That's everything that a couple needs, because they can come to you and ask you, what do we need to do? How many couples today, how many people do you know have been together as long as you guys have been together? Heck, I need to pick up the phone and start calling you guys. Seriously, that's the support. That's the counseling.
Yes.
That's the mentoring. It's you, Eunice and Kalvin. You don't need anybody who went to school and looked at a book and who never went through this experience before. So how can they help anybody? It's lived experiences.
That's true.
Yeah, that's sad. It's so sad.
It is, but that's what they believe.
Well, we're gonna close. We're gonna close, and I appreciate you guys so much for being on. You make me smile just thinking about your relationship. And is there any last words you want to give the couples?
Don't give up. It's worth it in the end. Life is a struggle. But in the end, you make it out together, you achieved greatness.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, you guys. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. 37 years plus. That's a long time. That's a lot of love, a lot of joy, a lot of arguing. But Eunice and Kalvin Marshall held it together, even after learning that they both were living with HIV in 2007. And 15 years later, after their diagnosis, they still hold strong. Take the lesson from them. Every single one of you. Take that lesson that Kalvin just gave us. And you know what? This is Positively D discussion. You have to remember that HIV still exists. You have to get tested. You have to use protection. Because if you have contracted HIV, you could get on medication and you could live a better, healthier life. I'm going to close you out with a little bit of Tony Enos. Everybody have a happy day. Remember, everybody is affected by HIV, whether you think so or not. We have to take people, educate them, give them the knowledge that they need. We have to. And encourage people to get tested. It's better to know than not to know, right? If I didn't know, I wouldn't be here today. That's how I see it.
Step up, get up. Only got one life to live it up, yeah. Rise and take, rise and take, love and living,